Aha! So you've learned a new programming language. Perhaps you've learned Python, C Sharp, Java, whatever it is. You've learned a new programming language. You have mastered that language. You know everything there is to be known about that language. However, that's only the beginning. There's a lot more that you need to know and to accomplish before you can actually be a successful programmer. Simply knowing a language and mastering a language is not enough. And I'm going to explain why in this episode. This is the Computer Programming University. Happy 2019. Happy New Year.
Click subscribe, then click the bell. Click the bell because you don't want to miss out on more awesome content that I'll be posting soon right here on this channel. Welcome aboard.
All right, so let's get right to it. I got a lot of things to do today, but I really felt motivated to make this video. It's something that I thought about today, and I said, you know what, this is something that would be very valuable to a lot of new programmers, new aspiring programmers, and people of that sort. So there's a misconception, and it's not just with programming, it's other fields as well, where people think, you know, all I got to do is learn whatever it is I'm supposed to learn to do whatever the job is that I want to do, and that's it. I'll just automatically get hired, the money will come in, good to go, right? That simple. Wrong. Specifically in programming, that is absolutely incorrect. So let's say you want to learn Python. You want to be a Python programmer. That's a language that you've chosen. So you go and you spend a lot of time, like Igor, one of my top subscribers. I told him to do something in Python every single day to learn it. I hope he's been doing that. I recommend every single one of you guys trying to learn a language. Every single day, do something. I don't care how small it is. Do something with the language. Bare minimum, look and interpret code. Bare minimum. Find some code to look at and interpret, even if it's your own code. Something that perhaps you did a few weeks ago, that everything's not 100% in your memory anymore. Look at it, interpret it, see what it is that you did or were trying to do, and practice makes perfect. But we're not talking about practice makes perfect. We're not talking about practicing and learning. We're talking about you've learned it all, right? You've watched my videos, you learned Python, you know everything there is to know about Python, but yet you're still missing a very important factor. So, learning Python simply gives you the building blocks, right? It gives you the building blocks that will enable you to actually build code. Doesn't mean you know how to actually program, right? Think about a lot of the things you learn, data structures, for example, right? Well, an array, okay. Well, so what? You know how to do an array? So what? When and how will you implement an array? And why? Can you answer that? Why should you use one method versus another? Why in some instances should you not use certain types of loops because of the resource requirements versus the requirements of whatever the product you're trying to build? So the bottom line is, it's kind of like, I'm trying to see what's the best way I can illustrate this. So just so you could be an expert at everything required to build a house, right? You've got all the latest tools and you know how to use every single tool. You got all these planks of wood and whatever the building blocks are that you use to construct a house. You've got it all, right? You've got all the tools and you've got all the raw materials. But that doesn't make a mansion, right? The house is not just going to magically, just because you know, okay, I know how to work a drill, I know how to work a hammer, and I've got all these parts, that doesn't make you able to actually build a house. I mean, technically, obviously, you can build a house, but in terms of building it well, building it to the level where it's impressive enough that someone would want to hire you to build their house. Just because you know how to put some walls together and you know how to put a roof on top and you know how to put some piping inside, that doesn't mean you're an attractive person in terms of someone who want to hire you to build their house, right? So someone wants to build a house on the edge of a hill, and they want to have a lot of sunlight in the morning, or whatever these different requirements are, and they want to have it look a certain way. Can you figure that out? Can you creatively combine your knowledge of how to construct a house, how to work with your tools and all the building materials, put it in context of the requirement of the person who's hiring you to build a house, and make it happen? So you want it to be built on a house, on a hill. That means there's going to be issues in terms of the angle of the house and how it's, the foundation, and can you figure that out? So I'm gonna get straight to the point. To be a good programmer, you need to be creative. You need to be a problem solver. Simply knowing Python is not enough. Simply knowing Python is not enough. That's a big part of it, but problem solving is a critical part of programming. That's why some of you, and one of the people that inspired this video is Igor. Shout out to Igor, a new subscriber, because Igor referenced some other, I guess he learned some web development skills or languages, and he was like, okay, now what do I do with this? That question is a very important question that you need to figure out, because once you have the language, you understand the language, you're going to be put in scenarios where your employer or your client is going to give you a problem. I need for this application to do a ton of different things and yet still be able to do it with low system requirements, right? You can't just go from the book, right? Stuff that you learned in your tutorials. You can't just do that. You've got to build something that is catering towards the unique requirements of the project, right? So now you got to think outside of the box. Normally, if I just build all these things that they're trying to have me build, it would be very resource intensive. So how can I fulfill the requirements of this design and also be able to have the requirements, the system resource requirements, be as low as they want? They want this to run on 10-year-old computers, minimal memory, but it's a lot. So it's for you to come up with different ideas. Can I leverage different technologies? Can I sort of simplify? Like, why is it that they want to do all of these different things? Right? Is there a way that we can simplify this application and still be able to meet the core purpose of the application? See, these are the types of things you need to be thinking about and be able to figure out to be a good programmer. Right? It's not just simply, oh, I know the code. Okay, you wanted to do X, Y, and Z. All right, I need to do a list, and then I'm going to take the variable. I'm going to do this substitution and whatever. Right? That's not enough. Right? You've got to go beyond the book, and that is one of the reasons why, a key reason why, I'm not against going to college or to a university, but that's one of the reasons why that paperwork can be very devalued in the marketplace. I've seen it many, many times. I've been almost 20 years in this industry, and I've seen people come in from fancy schools, and I've seen that kind of being mocked behind the scenes. The repeated argument that I hear or comment that I hear is regarding people who go to these top schools and they have all this book knowledge. They know how to repeat everything, right? They got it all memorized, and they're useless. They cannot create. They cannot solve problems. They cannot innovate. These are things that you're going to want to have to be a successful programmer. Now, if you simply know a programming language and you know it well, you can certainly program. I'm not saying you can't. There's certainly going to be jobs for you. But if that's all you can do, basically, then you're going to be not very competitive. Right? If you're competing against people who are actually problem solvers and all you know is the language, then you got one guy who's an expert at Python. You got another guy who is very good at Python, but certainly not an expert, but has a creative mindset. He has the ability to innovate. Like the way that the person demonstrates their thought process in an interview demonstrates their ability to think on their feet, to create, to think outside of the box. I'm going to hire that guy. I'd rather hire that guy and then boost up their skill set in terms of Python if required, than hire the expert who doesn't really know how to solve problems. When we have objectives in terms of, we need an application that does X, Y, and Z, they're going to be stuck. Now, if someone else can solve the problem and tell them how to do it, they know the language enough to actually implement and actually to code, right? But part of the process is figuring out the design. What techniques, what methods am I going to use to build this application so that it meets the requirements? So once again, simply learning a programming language is great, but that is not enough. You need to be a problem solver. And one tip that I can give you to develop those problem solving skills is to be your own client. Come up with aggressive designs, or not designs, but come up with something that you can build and be aggressive with it. Try to make it as fast as possible, as efficient as possible. Be a little bit of a, let's say, jerk client where you're really, really pushy and you really have these, this kind of high maintenance, right? Push yourself a little bit. Try to see how much you can squeeze out of your skill set. But present pretty much a problem. So here's a problem. We need an application that does X, Y, and Z. We need it to be fast. We need it to be secure, right? And use that as something that you can learn from, where you have to actually sit there and solve, like, how can I do this? Practice makes perfect. The same way that you can master the language through constantly practicing the language, you also need to practice problem solving as well. Not simply just regurgitating, these are all the data structures and blah, 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 right? That's fine. Learn the language, but also learn how to solve problems. This is a Computer Programming University. If this video has been helpful for you, you know what to do. Click on that subscribe button and make sure you smash the bell. And until the next episode, this is Computer Programming University, where learning is fun, as it should be.
Click subscribe, then click the bell. Click the bell, because you don't want to miss out on more awesome content that I'll be posting soon, right here on this channel. Welcome aboard. Buongiorno. Salut. Vigets, bienvenidos, hasta luego todos. I'm so excited that you decided to join the team so we can learn together, grow together, and achieve our dreams. Let's do it. See you soon. Grazie. Learning, learning, learning. We gonna do some learn.
Subscribe, I'm telling you.
Learn.